All right, get ready because we're about to take a deep dive into Rivian's latest financials. We're going to unpack what it all means for their path to profitability.
And we've got all the good stuff to help us do that. We've got Rivian's official SEC filing. We've got a press release. And of course, we've got their very detailed shareholder letter. We're going way beyond just the headlines today to see how this EV maker is really performing.
Exactly. I love digging into the details, and they just announced their Q4 and full year 2024 results on February 20th, 2025.
And the biggest news. Well, Rivian hit a major milestone, their first ever quarter of positive gross profit.
That's huge, especially in such a competitive market. It really seems like they're turning a corner.
It is. They reported $170 million in gross profit, which is significant. There are a few key things that help them achieve this. First, remember that second-generation R1 platform is really helping them bring down those variable costs.
You mean like the materials and labor it takes to make each car?
Exactly. And they're also making more money on each car they sell. Higher revenue per unit delivered, as they call it. Plus, they've reduced fixed costs. Those are the expenses that stay the same no matter how many vehicles they produce.
So they're attacking profitability from multiple angles, very strategic.
Precisely. And this is reflected in their record Q4 revenues. But it's not all about selling more cars. Remember those regulatory credits we've talked about before?
Oh, right. The government incentives for making eco-friendly vehicles. Rivian is actually making money by being green.
You got it. It's a smart strategy, even though it might not be a guaranteed revenue stream forever. On top of that, they also saw growth in their software and services revenue. Think Connect plus their subscription service.
Yeah, they've added features like Google Cast and a YouTube app, right?
Right. And people seem to be loving it. Most are subscribing even after that free trial period ends, which tells me they're building a loyal customer base. People are willing to pay for that extra value.
So they're not just another car company. They're creating a whole tech ecosystem around their vehicles.
Exactly. That's key for long-term profitability. Okay, let's get into some specifics. For the full year 2024, they produced 49,476 vehicles and delivered 51,579.
Not bad, especially when you think back to those component shortage issues they had in Q4.
Right, those shortages definitely slowed down production, but they've addressed the issue and don't expect it to be a problem going forward.
That's a relief. Beyond just the numbers, what really stands out to me is Rivian's focus on strategic partnerships.
Absolutely. For a company as young as Rivian, those partnerships are crucial. Look at their joint venture with Volkswagen Group. That deal's worth up to $5.8 billion. That's a major vote of confidence from a giant in the auto industry.
Like Volkswagen is saying, we believe in what you're doing, Rivian, and we're putting our money where our mouth is.
Exactly. This partnership will help Rivian in a ton of ways, from technology sharing and manufacturing know-how to breaking into new markets.
And don't forget that massive loan for the Department of Energy, up to $6.6 billion. That's a serious injection of capital.
It shows that the U.S. government sees Rivian as a vital part of the switch to electric vehicles. This loan will be a game changer for their operations and expansion plans, especially their new facility in Georgia and the launch of their R2 model.
Which, speaking of expansion, brings us to their commercial success.
Yeah.
Remember those electric delivery vans they make for Amazon?
Oh, yeah. Those vans delivered over 1 billion packages in 2024. That shows that Rivian can deliver on a huge scale and meet the needs of a demanding customer like Amazon.
And they're not stopping with just Amazon. They've expanded their commercial van sales to all kinds of fleets, tapping into a huge and growing market for green delivery solutions.
It's a smart move, diversifying like that. Now, let's switch gears and talk about something that I find super exciting, Rivian's focus on tech and innovation.
It's true. They're not just building EVs. They're pushing the limits of what's possible. Take their second-generation R1 platform. It's not just a pretty face. It's designed to be more cost-effective and incorporate the latest tech.
And that includes Connect Plus, the subscription service we were talking about, media, connectivity, life security features, and even Google Cast and YouTube. They're basically turning their cars into entertainment hubs on wheels.
And people are eating it up. Most are subscribing after trying it out for free. That says a lot about how much people value those extra features.
It's a win-win for everyone. Rivian gets recurring revenue, and customers get a more enjoyable driving experience.
It reminds me of Apple's sell the hardware, then offer those tempting subscriptions.
That's a great comparison. Okay, let's talk autonomy. Where does Rivian stand in the race towards self-driving cars?
That's a great question. Fill us in.
Well, they're tackling it head-on with their own Rivian autonomy platform. What's really impressive is they're developing it all in-house. That gives them a ton more control compared to using someone else's system.
So they're not just slapping on someone else's tech, they're building it from scratch.
Exactly. And those second-generation R1s, packed with an incredible sensor suite, cameras, radars, you name it, to make it all work.
And they're updating the software like crazy every 4 weeks. Talk about rapid innovation.
It shows how dedicated they are to staying ahead of the game. They're even rolling out a paid version called Rivian Autonomy Platform Plus with enhanced highway assist, which will offer hands-free driving in certain situations.
Wow, we're getting closer to that self-driving future we've been dreaming of.
They are. And you know what's cool? They're offering free trials to current R1 owners to get feedback and create some buzz.
They're really thinking strategically about how to get people on board with these new features.
And their vision. They want their platform to be able to handle most driving situations by the end of 2025.
That's ambitious, but with their dedication to innovation, they just might pull it off.
Now, amidst all this high-tech talk, we can't forget about a crucial part of car ownership service.
You're right, you can have the coolest car in the world, but if it breaks down and the service is terrible, it's a nightmare.
Rivian gets that. They're committed to making service a blend of high-tech and high-touch, a truly seamless experience for their customers.
Okay, tell me more. What are they doing differently?
They're going with a vertically integrated model, meaning they handle everything themselves from diagnostics to repairs, no relying on a bunch of different dealerships.
They're owning the entire service process.
Exactly. And they're using AI in some pretty cool ways. Think about this. Your Rivian senses a potential issue, and it automatically schedules a mobile service appointment for you.
That's amazing. It's like the car is taking care of itself.
Right. They're bringing that proactive, personalized service we love from our gadgets to the car world. Plus, they've got a fleet of over 600 mobile service vans for on-site repairs.
So they'll come to you. How convenient is that?
Very. And they're constantly improving, too. New tools, better service center designs, more efficient operations. They're obsessed with every detail.
Now, all this sounds amazing, but the question everyone wants answered is, how will Rivian achieve sustained profitability?
Well, they've laid out 4 key areas they're focusing on for 2025, building on their momentum from last year. First and foremost, reaching that consistent profitability. They've tasted it. Now they need to make it the norm.
It's one thing to have a profitable quarter, but making it sustainable is a whole different ballgame.
You got it. Next, they're all about optimizing efficiency, squeezing every ounce of value from their operations. And of course, they can't let up on their technology leadership. That's what makes them stand out.
And let's not forget about that customer experience. They need to keep people happy with great features and top-notch service.
Absolutely. These 4 drivers are all connected and super important for building a thriving business.
So what's their game plan for 2025 in terms of concrete numbers?
They're predicting deliveries between 46,000 and 51,000 vehicles, a big jump from 2024. But they are also projecting an adjusted EBITDA loss between $1,700 million and $1,900 million.
Okay, so they're expecting to be in the red, but we need to understand what that really means.
You're right. Remember, they're still a young company making huge investments in growth. They're also projecting significant capital expenditures between $1,600 million and $1,700 million to fuel expansion and research and development.
They're playing the long game, putting money back into the business to set themselves up for future success.
Precisely. And even with these losses, they still expect to achieve a modest gross profit for the entire year.
It's a realistic outlook, acknowledging challenges while still being optimistic about reaching profitability.
Now let's get into the details from their shareholder letter. There's a lot to unpack.
Perfect. Let's dive in. What were some of the most interesting insights you found?
Well, they gave a really detailed explanation of what drove their positive gross profit in Q4. It wasn't just luck. It was a carefully planned strategy.
Give me the highlights.
Variable cost reductions played a major role, and that's largely thanks to the launch of their second-generation R1 vehicles. Design changes, better deals with suppliers, and thankfully, lower raw material costs all helped.
So they're finding ways to make each vehicle cheaper to produce.
Yeah. But it's not just about cutting costs. They also saw a big revenue jump from those regulatory credits we talked about and their software and services business.
It's like they have multiple engines driving their revenue growth. Very smart.
Exactly. And that tri-motor R1 variant, it's pushing up their average selling price, which is crucial for profitability.
It's like they're playing chess, making strategic moves on every level to boost their financial standing.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just about revenue, it's also about managing costs wisely. Their careful decisions about inventory and commitments are helping their bottom line.
So it's a holistic approach.
Absolutely. Now, let's look at their financial reporting. They've divided things into two segments, automotive and software and services.
That makes a lot of sense. It gives investors a much clearer picture of how each part of their business is performing.
Exactly. And it shows their increasing focus on software and services as a major revenue source. It's not just about selling cars anymore.
It's about building that recurring revenue stream, which is so important in today's world.
You got it. Now, they're being very upfront about how they're accounting for the revenue from that Volkswagen joint venture. They're spreading it out over 4 years as the venture gets up and running.
So they're not artificially inflating their number, they're keeping it real.
Exactly. And they're providing a lot of detail about their gross profit, operating expenses, cash flow, the whole 9 yards. They're being very transparent.
Building trust and showing investors they're playing by the rules.
Now, let's get back to their software strategy. We touched on Connect plus Share, but their autonomous driving efforts are truly fascinating.
Yeah, that Rivian autonomy platform is a bold move, and they're doing it all in-house. Very impressive.
They're committed to that in-house development, which gives them so much more control. It's a risky move, but shows just how serious they are about being a leader in autonomous driving.
It's like they're saying, we're not just going to use someone else's tech. We're going to build our own and dominate this space.
Exactly. And those second-generation R1s, they're loaded with state-of-the-art sensors, cameras, radars, you name it, all working together to make it happen.
And they're constantly updating the software like every 4 weeks.
That's incredible. It's all about continuous improvement and staying ahead of the game. And they're rolling out a paid version, too, called Rivian Autonomy Platform Plus A. It's got this enhanced highway assist feature that lets you drive hands-free in certain situations.
Now that's the future I'm excited about.
I know, right? And to get people excited, they're offering free trials to anyone who owns an R1. Smart move.
It's a great way to get feedback and generate buzz.
And their goal, to have their platform handling most driving situations by the end of 2025. Ambitious, but not impossible.
It's going to be an exciting race to watch.
Now, let's not forget about the elephant in the room service. Everyone's had a bad experience with car repairs and maintenance at some point, right?
Oh, tell me about it. It's usually a huge headache.
Well, Rivian is determined to make it different. They're building a vertically integrated service model, meaning they control the whole process, from diagnosing problems to getting parts and making repairs.
So they're not relying on a bunch of dealerships. They're handling everything in-house.
Yeah. This allows them to ensure consistency and quality and prioritize their customer-centric approach.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So how does AI fit into this? I remember you mentioned that earlier.
They're using AI to make the service experience even better. Imagine this. Your Rivian sensors detect a potential issue, and boom, the system automatically schedules a mobile service appointment for you.
Whoa, that's some next-level service.
I know, right? It's like having a personal mechanic monitoring your car 24/7. And if you need on-site repairs, they have over 600 mobile service vans ready to roll.
They're really going above and beyond for their customers.
Absolutely. And they're constantly improving, too. They're always working on new tools, better service center designs, and more efficient processes. They're obsessed with every detail, always striving to make the experience as smooth as possible.
It sounds like they're leaving no stone unturned when it comes to service.
And they're putting their money where their mouth is by expanding their service network with 30 new locations planned for 2025.
They're investing in their customers for the long haul.
Exactly. Now, with all this in mind, it's clear that Rivian is taking a holistic approach to building a successful business. But what about the bigger picture?
Okay, let's zoom out a bit. Rivian is operating in a very competitive market, and the EV landscape is constantly shifting. What do they need to do to not just survive, but thrive in this environment?
Well, staying ahead of the curve is crucial. They need to continue innovating and offering unique products that stand out from the crowd.
Right. They need to give people a compelling reason to choose Rivian over all the other EV options out there.
Exactly. And it's not just about the cars themselves. They need to create a seamless and enjoyable customer experience from start to finish, from the initial purchase to ongoing service and support.
It's all about making people feel good about choosing Rivian, both for the product and the overall experience.
You nailed it. And of course, they need to execute their strategy efficiently and manage their costs carefully. That's essential in any market, but especially in such a competitive one.
So they need to be smart and resourceful with their investments.
Absolutely. And just as important is adaptability. The EV market is evolving so rapidly that they need to be able to adjust their strategy as needed to stay ahead of the game.
It's a constant dance, isn't it?
It really is. But despite these challenges, Rivian has some significant advantages on their side.
Such as.
While their leadership team is strong and they have a clear vision for the future, they've also built a talented team and have fostered a passionate customer base who truly believe in their mission.
That's a powerful combination. And let's not forget, they have strong financial backing and some key partnerships, like the one with Amazon, that give them a real edge.
Those partnerships are invaluable. They provide Rivian with resources, expertise, and distribution channels that would be tough to obtain on their own.
So it sounds like they have a real shot at making a significant impact on the EV market.
They do, but it won't be a walk in the park. They'll have to overcome obstacles, adapt to change, and keep innovating to reach their goals.
It's a story that's still being written. It'll be interesting to see how it unfolds.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the final chapter of our deep dive.
In this last part, we'll synthesize everything we've discussed and explore the key takeaways. We'll also leave you with a final thought to ponder as we wrap up our exploration of the fascinating world of Rivian.
Stay tuned for the grand finale.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about what Rivian has already achieved, but now let's look ahead. What's in store for them in 2025? They've set some pretty big goals, but I'm sure there will be some challenges along the way, right?
Definitely. They're aiming to deliver between 46,000 and 51,000 vehicles this year, which would be a massive jump from 2024. But they're also projecting an adjusted EBITDA loss. That's something investors are definitely keeping an eye on.
So let's break that down. What does an adjusted EBITDA loss mean for those of us who aren't financial experts? Why should we care?
Well, basically, it means they're still expecting to lose money in 2025. Somewhere between $1,700 million and $1,900 million to be precise. But here's the important thing to remember. They're a young company, and they're investing a ton of money in growth. It's like building a house, you got to spend money up front before you can move in.
Okay, so they're laying the groundwork for future success, even if it means being in the red for a bit longer.
Exactly. And that includes big capital expenditures, too, between $1,600 million and $1,700 million. This money is going towards expanding their production capacity, developing cool new tech like that autonomous driving platform we talked about, and making sure their service network can handle all those new customers.
So it's all about balance, right?
Yeah.
Investing in the future while also working towards profitability.
Exactly. And don't forget, they are still projecting a modest gross profit for the full year, so they're moving in the right direction.
Okay, that is good news. But you mentioned earlier that some external factors could also affect their 2025 outlook. Remind me what those were.
Well, the EV market is heavily influenced by government policies. Things like tax credits and emissions standards can really impact demand. And then there's the whole global economic picture, which is pretty uncertain right now. Inflation, interest rates, these things can make people hesitant to buy big-ticket items like cars.
So there are a lot of variables they can't fully control. It's kind of a gamble, even with the best planning.
It's true. But Rivian is doing what they can to manage those risks. Their focus on diversification, with multiple revenue streams from both vehicles and services, helps create a buffer against potential economic shocks.
That's right. They're not putting all their eggs in one basket. And their emphasis on operational efficiency should help them weather those economic storms, too.
Absolutely. It's all about streamlining processes, reducing waste, and making every dollar count. That's crucial for any business, but especially in a time of uncertainty.
So they're being lean and mean. And let's not forget about innovation, which is where they really shine.
That's key in this rapidly evolving market. It's not just about keeping up. It's about staying ahead of the curve and shaping the future of EVs.
Okay, so they're planning for growth, managing risks, and constantly innovating. But there's another important factor we haven't touched on yet, financial transparency. How open are they being with investors about their financial performance?
Well, that's where those detailed financial statements come in. And one thing that stood out to me was how they've split their financials into two distinct segments, automotive and software and services. It helps paint a clearer picture of their business model.
So they're not just lumping everything together. Investors can see exactly how each part of the business is performing.
Exactly. And it also highlights their growing emphasis on software and services as a key revenue driver. It's a smart move, considering the importance of recurring revenue in today's tech-driven world.
Makes sense. And they've been pretty upfront about how they're handling revenue from the Volkswagen joint venture, right?
Yeah.
Spreading it out over a few years as the venture ramps up.
Yep. They're recognizing it over 4 years, which is a sign of responsible accounting. They're not trying to inflate their numbers. They're being transparent and taking a long-term view.
It builds trust with investors when they see that kind of honesty. And speaking of transparency, they're also providing a ton of detail about things like gross profit, operating expenses, and cash flow. It's all there for investors to dig into.
Exactly. They're laying all their cards on the table, so to speak, which is reassuring for anyone who's considering investing in Rivian.
Now, I want to circle back to their software strategy because I'm really intrigued by this whole autonomous driving thing. That in-house Rivian autonomy platform is a pretty bold move.
It is. And it's paying off. Developing it in-house gives them a lot more control and flexibility than relying on someone else's technology. It's a risk, for sure, but it also demonstrates their commitment to being a leader in this space.
It's like they're saying, we're not just going to be another car company. We're going to shape the future of driving.
Exactly. And those second-generation R1 vehicles are designed from the ground up with autonomy in mind. They're packed with all sorts of advanced sensors, cameras, radars, the whole 9 yards, all working together to gather information about the environment.
It's incredible how much technology they've packed into those vehicles. And they're constantly updating the software, too, like every 4 weeks. That's a crazy fast pace of development.
It's all about continuous improvement and staying ahead of the competition. And to keep pushing the boundaries, they're even rolling out a paid version of their platform called Rivian Autonomy Platform Plus A, which includes features like enhanced highway assist.
So is that like hands-free driving on the highway?
It is. Well, in certain situations, they're still working on making it fully autonomous, but this is a big step in that direction.
Wow, that's impressive. And they're smart to offer free trials to current R1 owners. That's a great way to get people excited about the technology and gather feedback.
Exactly. It's all about getting people comfortable with the idea of autonomous driving and showing them the potential benefits and their ultimate goal. To have their platform capable of handling most driving situations by the end of 2025. It's ambitious, but with their track record of innovation, I wouldn't bet against them.
It's going to be fascinating to see how it all unfolds. Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about something that's often the least exciting part of car ownership service. Everyone's had a bad experience with car repairs at some point, right? It's usually a hassle.
Yeah, it can be a real pain. But Rivian is taking a very different approach, and it's quite impressive. They're building what they call a vertically integrated service model, which basically means they control the whole process, from diagnostics to repairs.
So they're not relying on third-party dealerships or service centers.
Nope. They're handling it all in-house. That allows them to ensure a consistent and high-quality experience for their customers, which is super important for building brand loyalty.
That makes sense. So where does AI fit into all of this? You mentioned that earlier.
They're using AI to make the service experience even better. Think about this. Your Rivian senses a potential issue, and the system automatically schedules a mobile service appointment for you.
That's incredible. It's like the car is taking care of itself.
Exactly. They're bringing that proactive, personalized service we expect from our smartphones and other tech gadgets to the car world. And if you do need repairs, they have over 600 mobile service vans ready to come to you.
So they're making it as convenient as possible. No more waiting around at the dealership.
Exactly. And they're always looking for ways to improve. They're constantly developing new tools, designing better service centers, and streamlining their processes to make the experience as seamless as possible.
It's great to see a company so focused on the customer experience.
Absolutely. They're really going above and beyond in this area. And to support this commitment, they're planning to open 30 new service locations in 2025, expanding their network even further.
It's clear they're investing heavily in their service infrastructure, which makes sense, considering how important it is for customer satisfaction and loyalty. But we need to zoom out again and think about the bigger picture. They're operating in a highly competitive industry. There are tons of other EV companies out there, both established players and ambitious startups. What does Rivian need to do to stand out and succeed in the long run?
Well, innovation is crucial. They need to continue developing cutting-edge technology and pushing the boundaries of what's possible with EVs.
Right. They need to give people a reason to choose Rivian over all the other options out there.
Exactly. And it's not just about the technology, it's about the entire customer experience. They need to make every interaction with the brand, from the initial research phase to the purchase process to the ongoing service and support, a positive one.
It's about building a relationship with their customers, not just selling them a car.
Precisely. And they need to execute their strategy effectively, manage their costs carefully, and stay adaptable in a rapidly changing market.
So basically, they need to keep doing what they're doing, but also be prepared to pivot and adjust as the market evolves.
Exactly. And it's worth noting that despite the competitive landscape, Rivian has some major advantages on their side.
Like what?
Well, they have a strong leadership team with a clear vision, a talented workforce, and a loyal customer base who are excited about their mission.
That's a lot to build on. And they have the financial resources to support their ambitious goals.
Yep. They've raised a lot of capital and secured some key partnerships, like the one with Amazon, that give them a real edge.
So it sounds like they have a solid foundation and a bright future ahead of them.
They do. But of course, there are always challenges in any business, and the EV market is particularly dynamic. It'll be fascinating to see how they navigate the road ahead.
It's a story that's still being written. And that brings us to the final part of our deep dive.
We'll wrap things up by summarizing the key takeaways from Rivian's story and leaving you with a final thought to ponder as you consider the future of this innovative company. Stay tuned.
Okay, we're back for the final part of our Rivian deep dive. Over the last two parts, we've covered a lot of ground, from their recent financial performance to their innovative technologies and their ambitious strategy for the future.
Yeah, we've really gotten into the nitty-gritty of their business.
We have. Now it's time to step back and look at the bigger picture. What's the overarching narrative of Rivian's story so far?
I think it's a story of bold ambition, relentless innovation, and a determination to face challenges head-on. They're not shying away from the tough stuff, like those supply chain issues that have been plaguing the industry.
They're not just trying to keep up, they're trying to set the pace.
Exactly. They're investing heavily in R&D, expanding their manufacturing capacity, and building out a robust service network.
They're playing the long game, creating a solid foundation for sustainable success.
Right. And I think their customer-centric approach is really key here. They're not just focused on building great cars, they're focused on building a great brand and a great overall experience for their customers.
They seem to get that it's not just about the product, it's about the entire ownership journey.
Absolutely. They're blending high-tech innovation with a genuine commitment to service, and I think that resonates with people.
It does.
Yeah.
But of course, they're not operating in a vacuum. There are some pretty significant headwinds out there, both in terms of the global economy and the increasingly competitive EV market.
True. There are a lot of factors beyond their control that could impact their success, but they've shown an impressive ability to adapt and innovate. They're diversifying their revenue streams, focusing on operational efficiency, and constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible with EVs.
They're not standing still, they're constantly moving forward.
Exactly. And I think their ability to anticipate and respond to those unexpected challenges will ultimately determine their long-term success.
They need to be nimble, adaptable, and always thinking a few steps ahead.
Right. It's a delicate balance between boldness and pragmatism, vision and execution.
And so far, they seem to be finding that balance.
They do. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Rivian, we want to leave you with a final thought to consider.
Given everything we've discussed, what's your take on Rivian's future? Will they achieve their ambitious goals? Will they disrupt the automotive industry? Or will they succumb to the challenges that have tripped up so many other startups?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's a fascinating story that's still being written.
And we've given you the insights and information to start forming your own conclusions.
Exactly. Now it's your turn to weigh the evidence, consider the possibilities, and make your own predictions.
And if you want to delve even deeper, we encourage you to check out the source documents we mentioned, the shareholder letter, the press release, and the SEC filing. They're full of rich details that we couldn't cover in our conversation today.
They're definitely worth a read if you're interested in learning more about Rivian's journey.
So that wraps up our deep dive into Rivian. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of one of the most intriguing companies in the EV space.
It's been a pleasure diving into this with you.
And to all our listeners, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking those tough questions. Until next time.
See you on our next deep dive.